Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning.
Hello from Southeast Texas.
Hey, where are we?
We're in Conroe, Texas.
Texas.
Next stop, Houston.
Oh yeah, that's right. For today, I was thinking like next stop home, but we have one more stop before we actually head home. We have, those of you who've been listening, we have been traveling for a month and a half. And there's so much to unpack just on that.
Yeah.
I think that we're up to 12 or 13 different places to lay your head.
I'm not counting.
I think we started in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area, and then headed to New Mexico, and then Vegas and Salt Lake, and then Colorado, and back to Salt Lake and Oklahoma City, and then into Dallas, Austin.
We did Fort Worth. We had a stop in Fort Worth, and then but it's been
we're in Houston.
We're looking forward to sleeping in our own bed, but it's been fun. We've had lots of fun, lots of great stops, and really successful outing.
Oh, absolutely. You know, one of the I think some of you ladies out there listening will appreciate this. We have like 2 large suitcases, 2 huge duffel bags, and every time we stop somewhere, we get a look. And the look's like, oh my gosh, did you bring everything? It's like, yes, don't judge me.
That's
but
right.
I have to say that there have to be probably 5 or 6 or more outfits that I never even threw on. So I should learn. I used to travel half the month every month, and I really prided myself on being able to get on a plane without having to check any bags all the time. But I've lost that skill.
Oh yeah,
do something to regain it. Well,
plenty to talk about.
There's a
so
lot to talk
much
about.
that we've.
Good morning, Brent. Tommy from
Tommy
DC.
Brandis,
Yeah.
PA this morning.
He is.
Hey Tommy. So we had quite a bit of stuff come up. I mean, it was kind of hard to decide what to really talk about this morning.
Can we talk about one that we were having coffee this morning, because we're coffee drinkers. And on the news, I don't know if you all were watching what was happening in the Houston area, but there was a major news break like 14 hours ago about catalytic converters. Catalytic converters. And I keep seeing a lot of grief about those on the different Facebook pages, and I've had to ask Jim, what are those?
Right.
I'm not a car person, but what are those? And they apparently like arrested a ring of people, and they seized 477
converters at 7 locations. So it was a simultaneous raid.
Yeah. Which, 7 locations, it says.
Yeah. So it's like it's an indication of just how widespread the ring is that is out there, conducting these thefts. And we did hear when we were at TIADA that Houston rather is the worst. It's the hardest hit market in Texas, at least. And so hopefully this this crackdown on the ring. And there was actually a trooper death, and I didn't finish reading it. It sounded like it might have been at their home, like on their own personal vehicle. But a trooper came out to stop a catalytic converter theft at his home, I guess, and was shot and killed. And so they've actually, have the perpetrator in that case, and are, pursuing, capital charges or whatever. But it's like, it just gives you an idea just how widespread, how serious it is. Obviously we hear dealers all over the country, complaining about that. So hopefully this is a big step. And we also, by the way, at the conference, we heard there was a state senator from Texas was there to speak to it. And they very much made a point to say, we're cracking down, and we've toughened the laws, and there's more to come. So which is it's good news. And if we can get, Texas has a really great
state organization that they really work closely with their legislators, and that's that's really, really great news.
Yeah, for sure.
For them. So so if you're missing a couple in the Houston area, maybe there's a pile of yours somewhere.
Right. We'll try to share the article. We found the article, so in our
like
post
all
on
over
Facebook,
the news.
we'll share it. At least in the Houston market, it is.
Yep. So catalytic converters, huge thing. I know that you guys are all really wondering what it is that's happening for us next.
You think they're wondering? you feel like they care?
Actually, I'm hoping by Sunday I'm sleeping in my own bed.
Yeah,
that would be quite nice. We've got a lot of different visits and things to do with clients over the next few months, and I think we're planning on also heading to the Arizona Independent Automobile Dealers Association Finance Conference in October, and then probably the Buy Here Pay Here Super Forum.
Yeah,
yep,
for sure.
But I also wanted to those of you guys who have been paying attention to the podcast Tote the Note, we did a podcast on that with Chris Tiller and Brent Carmichael on economic times, and really, really, really meaty podcast. You can find that on any of the syndicated stations and also on our YouTube channel. But we got on the calendar to do another one with Brent. First part of it's like we're going to be recording it first couple of weeks of August, and we're going to be talking about why dealers fail.
Yeah. And so we're looking forward to that. And we may need to invite some others to the conversation besides just Brent and myself. Right now it's scheduled to just be the two of us. But, in my own experience, my own travels across these years, and I have chosen not to participate. I've been invited to participate in dealerships that were, I was asked to run an operation 20 years ago. And 18 years ago, maybe. And and I just chose not to participate. And it just looked to me like a really aggressive strategy. And I think, if there's any one theme that, without a spoiler alert, if I'm giving away the theme, it's like we see dealerships move too fast in this space. And they kind of, to quote Russell, and we had a wonderful dinner, glad to meet Russell's wife last night. And so, we're with Russell Moore. Those of you that are in the Facebook groups with us are certainly aware of Russell. He's been a guest on the morning show on a White Hat Wednesday, but we had a wonderful dinner with them. And among the things that came up is, we talked about this business of dealerships failing. And, he's seen it in his market. He's seen dealerships, come and go. He's been around the business a good while. And we just talk about, dealers they sometimes just move too fast in this space. And from my perspective, it looks like they get intoxicated, especially if they're coming out of franchise and independent retail and they're not used to this buy here, pay here thing. And they get in the business and they see these, higher gross profits and easy to create sales. And they just get intoxicated by it and they just go really fast. And so we just see example after example of people, and then of course the leverage part. So there's things like that to look at. And so Brent and I will break that down, but wow, we've just seen example after example. We keep hearing stories lately of dealerships, but they tend to be the bigger ones. I mean, of course, smaller dealerships fail too, but we're just seeing, a pattern, like quite a few stories of over the last, 5 years or so, dealers that have, folded up tent. And so obviously those reasons vary, but Brent and I are going to break that down. And that won't get recorded till the middle of August, so a couple of weeks out.
Yeah, so you probably it'll be out a week or within a few days.
After that. That's because Brent is a super busy guy. He's running 11, 20 groups, and so he's 11 groups, and so he's a workhorse. And so basically they're so we got to wait on his schedule and availability, and then we get that recorded and bring that subject to everybody.
Yeah, you had a couple of other things you wanted to talk about with regards to that, though.
Yeah, just kind of all ties to the same thing. It's like this whole thing that, years ago I was asked to step in and run this dealership group. And kind of the short story on that is, I was asked by people who were not from the buy here, pay here space. These were, we'll call them corporate executives. And they made the decision to purchase an established buy here, pay here group. I had some knowledge of the group in question. Like I had met their kind of key managers and had, been involved in some of the training with those folks. And I knew a little bit about the business model and the strategy. I knew they were very aggressive. I knew that they had come from outside the, buy here, pay here space themselves. They hadn't been in deep subprime. And so the decision was made to buy this dealership group. And of course, at the time I was available, like this outfit didn't consult me in the decision to buy. And when they asked me to run it, I said, no, I'm not going to be interested in that. They wanted me to step out there and run it. And they proceeded to buy it and run it, and it failed pretty miserably. And that doesn't mean that, that doesn't mean that I'm a know-it-all and I knew exactly what was going to happen there. It just means that the other piece of that I saw was that the people who were running their collections team had some ideas that were fundamentally opposite to the way I think about, collections and buy here, pay here. And that's a whole separate subject that we'll save for another day. But it's like, when you go fast and you have some fundamental flaws, I think, in your business model, then there's a recipe there for problems. And that's just kind of, again, I was a fairly young consultant back in those days, and I could see that just fundamentally it had some problems, and unfortunately it failed in a pretty big way. And so that's just something that we learn from those. If we're paying attention, we watch and we learn. And you hear me say I'm an unapologetic fundamentalist. Like I just believe in sticking to the blocking and tackling and the basic fundamentals of business in general, but certainly in buy here, pay here. There's just so many things that are kind of still fundamental to our business. And we're all working to try to get more efficient and find ways to improve the efficiency of our business. I just feel like we can't abandon the fundamentals in the interest of doing that. We got to find ways to do both. And so those things are out there, but that's basically, I've never regretted not stepping into that, that dealership situation. And I hope people, can learn from the things that we've observed. But often we just see that people just move too fast. They get excited about it, the big opportunity, and they kind of set out to own the world and going to be the biggest buy here, pay here in town and now in our state. And, it's just like, there's something wrapped up in all that, and you heard me say, of course, in our presentation in Austin, that, I think it's often happens that people get there's kind of this thoroughbred, persona in the car business. People just want to, they want to be top dog. They want to go fast. And, in Texas, it's, the theme is go big or go home. Right. And so you jump out there and you're going to just beat your chest and go fast and be the biggest dealer in town. And next thing you know, your bank's knocking on your door. And, it's just not, it's a dangerous space if we're not careful and really, create a good, smart strategy. And, we had a conversation with Russell last night about playing the long game. You just, in this business, if we are too short-sighted, we can, and we're going to have a chance to see Amanda Sanchez and Hugo
just piped in about becoming a millionaire and buy here, pay here. It starts with 2 million.
Yeah. That's the old joke about how to create $1 million and buy here, pay here, start with 2 million. Right. So it's part of the thing is like, we just see dealers move too fast. They're short-sighted. You can create really fat financials in this business in a short period of time and make yourself look good and attract a lot of investment. But it's just so much more. And of course, Amanda and Hugo know that quite well. This whole concept of phantom profit, it's a feel-good profit. But our payday, our day of reckoning is down the line. I've also heard it talked about in buy here, pay here, the honeymoon period. When you get out of the gate and buy here, pay here, you've got gross profit. The charge-offs haven't yet hit. So your P&Ls look good. So people who don't understand that space, whether that's a bank, a lender, an investor, people who don't really understand that might look at those financials in comparison to a traditional business, or I say traditional, a more conventional business than buy here, pay here. And they might look at that and think, oh, what a great business. Look at how successful they are. And, that's a good investment. Well, it's dangerous if you don't know the whole space and understand the long game that is buy here, pay here. Then there's just there's some hazards there, and so part of our job is obviously to help new dealers navigate that and avoid those pitfalls.
Another piece of that, Tom Siver actually posted a pretty long posting. I'll see if I can attach I noticed that you had made a comment on it, but about as we're heading into a recession. I mean, there's other reasons than just flash in the pan kind of dealers that will come in and come out, but there's other reasons why dealers fail.
Right.
And one of those things that Jim, we've talked about a lot, just as I've been learning and as I'm listening to him talk to other dealers, is how you set up your capital.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways of doing that so that you can be more successful with the changing tides of economy and all of that. And Tom wrote an article. Do you want to?
Yeah, and I might just give a little backstory on that. Quick side note, I did meet Jimmy Rambo from Spartan Financial as well at the conference, and you can tell as soon as Jimmy started speaking, he's from the Carolinas, but so Tom Siver is also with Spartan now, and both of those gentlemen come from a banking and finance background. And so Tom is somebody I've known for a long time before he was with Spartan, and so those are folks you want to listen to in terms of this space. They're people who were in banking who moved into the deep subprime, and so they certainly understand both sides of the coin on that. And Tom certainly has some valid perspective on that, and so we all should pay attention to what that's about. By the way, I should explain, I think most folks in the industry would know that Spartan acquired a bank called Hamilton State Bank, which is a large bank in the Southeast that had done a lot of deep subprime lines of credit and were quite successful with it. And they ultimately, moved out of that space and I think sold their portfolio. Tom, you can let me know on Facebook if I'm saying that incorrectly, but I think that's the way that happened. And so Tom was with Hamilton State Bank when I met him years ago. And so he's just somebody who has a good understanding about those things. And I think, Tom, if you had been in our session at TIADA, you would have heard me talk about that. I'm advising our own clients to think about in their business planning to really kind of, plan as tightly as they can for the next 2 years, try to get to the, 2-year mark and then reassess, kind of recalibrate based on that. My feeling is, and I'm no prognosticator, so I'm not out there making any predictions, but my general feeling and overview of the kind of the market conditions are going to be such that it feels like we would probably stabilize in about 2 years. And so if that's true, then, we can just reassess. We just kind of set our sights on 2 years, make sure we've got a good plan to get us through 24 months, and then be in a position to relook at everything, at that point in time. So for me, a 3-year and a 5-year plan right now is problematic. It doesn't mean we can't do it. It's just that I would probably be super focused on the 24-month mark and have the plan or the understanding that at 24 months we're gonna reevaluate. Yep.
It's been interesting to listen to a lot of the people that understand the space an awful lot talk about, though we're heading into a shift in economic times, but it's really is a huge opportunity for people in our space. And I've heard lenders and dealers and all of those alike saying, are you ready? Are you ready for this? And I along that lines of the making sure that your capital is set up properly, but be prepared for that the sector is about ready to grow.
Yeah. And I think in addition to that, what you're seeing is, we see it through Facebook. So this is purely anecdotal. We don't have any real data behind this, but what we're seeing through Facebook is a lot of people or a good number of dealers across the country saying in these Facebook environments, we're stepping away from buy here, pay here. We're selling our paper, running off our paper. This is not a good time for us to stay the course on buy here, pay here because of cost of car mostly is what we're hearing them cite. So you're seeing dealers step away from that. And so there's opportunity for those that are in a financial position. So I think when you're hearing people talk about that, there are two things at play. Some are saying, get yourself ready. Are you ready? Some would be saying, have you prepared yourself financially for things like inflation and what this is going to mean in terms of collections and charge-offs and some of those kind of things? Are you prepared financially to weather that storm? And then the other could be preparation for these opportunities. There are going to be opportunities. There are going to be people exiting the business, and there's opportunity to acquire portfolios. There's maybe opportunities to acquire real estate. We've heard some of those stories. So that happens. Obviously, anytime there's a downturn, the people that are successful often are in a position then to gather up assets of others that are stepping away. When some are stepping away, others are stepping in. So it would be those that are in the best financial position to step in and acquire and grow, because again, if you're playing the super long game here, then just like investments, you're gonna ride the stock market. It's going to be up and down, but over the course of your investment cycle, you should obviously gain, and that's historically has been the case. And I think people would bring that same approach to buy here, pay here. So it's like there's opportunities. There's always going to be opportunities, as there are, as we see dealers struggling, but we're also seeing car prices stabilize. There's, more information coming in. I saw an article that used car inventory levels are recovering. They're back up to, kind of getting into kind of a pre-COVID level. So that alone, helps kind of stabilize, and the demand will start to stabilize. And that means, car prices it won't be sudden, but it'll be, you'll start to see car prices soften, it seems like, as inventory improves. So now there's still the new car piece of that, but the reality is you're gonna see things start to stabilize. And so it's you think about dealers, are they in a position to ride whatever that storm looks like? Or are we in a position, is our vessel built well enough to ride out that storm?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a storm coming, but don't know how big it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. And sometimes just, I don't know about you, but I enjoy stepping out in a storm and feeling the rain and having some fun. And it can be pretty, thrilling as well.
Yeah.
Just,
And
let's
certainly
do this.
Michelle and I are the last people to be fear mongering, especially in buy here, pay here, because I would say that buy here, pay here dealers are in a better position to weather any kind of storm that might be coming on that. They're in a better position to adjust than maybe a retail or franchise dealer might be. So because we enjoy the cash flow. So even if we suffer charge-offs and we lose some accounts, as long as our employment's good in our market, we should be able to find a replacement buyer for any customers who fail. And, we kind of covered that in our conversation with Chris Tiller and Brent Carmichael. So any who haven't found that particular podcast, you're going to want to get out there and check that one out. That was really great stuff from Chris Tiller and Brent.
Yeah. And the panel that you had of some really, really powerhouses of dealers, we talked a little bit about that. And it was really interesting. This is just like, from my perspective, there are a lot of very successful dealerships out there. And there are a lot of ways to have a really successful dealership out there. And we actually did a dealer visit yesterday, Mr. Donnelly out of
Chris Donnelly.
Chris Donnelly. And we were just kind of talking about how so many people are, so many dealers like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And it's all the heck over the place in what it is that the advice that comes from other dealers. And I mean, it's different ends of the spectrum. And the interesting thing about this space is that there's like 1,000,000,001 ways to skin a cat.
Right.
There's so many different ways for it to be successful for you, and different pieces that you can put together and create something that's pretty amazing. And it was, so with the panel though, it was, you asked a little bit about, how have you been doing, how have you been shifting for COVID? And, we're on the other side of that now and heading into a different time, but, how did you shift? And it was really, really interesting to me to hear three different, very different perspectives,
Yeah, for sure.
and from three very successful dealers. And you know, one of the things that I thought was pretty amazing about all of them, I think that how long had Govinda been in business?
Since '09, I
Since
think.
'09. So I think that he was one of the ones that had been in business the least amount of time. None of them have ever sold paper.
Right.
And you know, they have a pretty decent size operation, and very different perspectives about how to step through this. And you know, and I appreciated Darla's what, you know, she's like, well, we just kind of constricted a little bit, and just we're selling a little bit less so that we would know that we would be able to get through to the other side of this. And then they're, you know, ready to go with whatever it is that comes up now for this next ride. It's really interesting too. I since stepping into the space, how I've been in the tech space, and so, you know, there've been different tech bubbles and stuff like that. And I remember as COVID was hitting, I was still very much so involved in the tech space, and how people were talking about how do we weather this storm. But it's just been it's a very different very different way of looking at economic turns, and that they happen a lot more than I was aware since since stepping into this, and that they can really have an impact. I remember in the tech space, it was all about, you know, how do you show an apartment without people wanting to actually step into an apartment? How do you do that? And so, you know, it was a scramble to figure out a way to be able to do that without actually having to see somebody.
Sure.
Yeah, that's I was in multifamily tech at the time, but it's just, yeah, it's a different.
It's what you call shuck and jive, is like, is just, can we pivot? Like, are we in a position? And among the things we talked about in our session at the conference was this idea of having your management team understand your whole strategy, like your grand plan, you know, your master vision of your business, because now the entire team can pivot more quickly when we all understand what it is we're trying to achieve in the long run. Then it makes us better able to pivot and make adjustments in our business quickly and effectively. And so, yeah, I think these are times that, you know, again, we saw through COVID in particular, buy here, pay here dealers fared much better, you know, than retail, because, you know, retail had to be closed for a time and people were adjusting, but at least buy here, pay here dealers could enjoy, you know, the cash flow off of, you know, last month's and last year's contracts. And so that put them in a position to deal with that. In fact, many of them, you know, did quite well, retired debt, and, you know, were able to bring in lots of cash and be quite successful during that period of time. It's just one more example. One of the things we love about this space, like there's huge opportunity in buy here, pay here. Yes, it's weird times, cost of cars up sharply. We got weird inflationary stuff that we got to, you know, kind of navigate, but we just know that, you know, just all the more reason to, you know, make sure your operation is clean, make sure you're healthy and on a good footing, and not over leveraged, and in a position to kind of pivot.
And also, to overlay all that, what's your mission? What is it that you want to be able to accomplish? You know, getting really clear about your vision, about who you want to show up in your community as,
right,
and be able to communicate that with your team so that you can move forward. As you know, we're here to help people during this economic downturn, and we're here to help our communities, and that kind of just flows into some of the things we talked about at the conference.
And people responded really well to that. We got excellent feedback on that session. And so, I think that's kind of the direction that Michelle and myself are going in terms of, you know, helping people plan is, you know, first get really clear about where you want to go with your business. And now you can build a more successful business plan. You know?
Absolutely. Well, we have a breakfast date in Houston with Butler Sanchez.
looking
we
forward to
thought,
getting down
yeah.
there to see them.
Yeah,
Visit their
absolutely.
offices where all the accounting magic happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a quick shout out for
happen.
them. They and the other professionals in this space that are buy here, pay here. And by the way, this is one of the things in conjunction with a changing industry. Make sure your accounting is right. You can't build a good business plan, and you can't stay on a good business plan if you don't have good accounting. And that means in our space, you need somebody who really understands buy here, pay here, and sometimes RFC and lease accounting. And so get somebody who really knows what they're doing so that you're working from good information.
Yeah. And those of you who know Amanda and Hugo, put a little plug out there. We'd like to get them on the show or on either Tote the Note, probably a more serious podcast, but also talk about some of the things that are happening, just day-to-day kind of stuff with them on this podcast.
Right,
and so
for sure.
We need to get them on. And we're about ready to step into having a conversation.
And we'll just have to make sure when we broadcast that one with Amanda, we'll click the explicit button because she's fiery and she
is. Whenever we take a podcast onto the syndicated stations, there's this little checkbox that says explicit content. And we're like, okay, that's it.
We haven't checked that one yet. But
we have not checked it yet. But hey guys, happy Friday. Have yourself a great weekend. We are going to be on the road. I think we've got about 14 hours of driving because on this long journey that we've had this last month and a half, we happened to pick up a car along the way.
We're doing I-10 from basically Houston to Tampa. So anywhere along that route.
If you got a dealership you want us to swing in and say, hey.
Or if you just can suggest some good queso stops, we're going to need to refuel in that way. By the way, quick mention Russell's restaurant last night.
Oh,
it was
so
great
good.
Food. Yeah. Russell picked his favorite restaurant. We went and had Mexican food.
I can't remember the name of it, but it
Margaritas,
was
I think.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Great queso.
Yeah,
really
stuff.
Great queso. All right, guys, have a great weekend and we will chat with you from Clearwater, Florida on Monday.